Welcome to the podcast, Lighting the Educational Flame, created and produced by educator and author Marc Hoberman, owner and director of Grade Success Tutoring. Marc will be joined by Susan Brender, CEO and host of The Susan Brender Show. The purpose of this program is to offer our listeners a variety of stories dealing with many interesting topics surrounding education. It is our hope that students and parents alike will benefit from the wide range of topics, including study skills, test prep, anti-bullying, sports, music, and more. A special aspect of our podcast is that the shows will also feature a teen guest host. We hope you enjoy our show, Lighting the Educational Flame.
Hello, everyone. This is Susan Brender. I'm the host of The Susan Brender Show. I'm very excited about launching our new project called Radio Reverb. The first pilot is Lighting the Educational Flame with Marc Hoberman, our program about giving a voice to any adult or teenager so that they can have an opportunity to speak out in their community is what we are trying to achieve. If you're interested in learning how to do your own podcast, contact me at S as in Susan, E as in Edward, Brender at yahoo.com. Now stay tuned for Marc Hoberman and his guest, Lt.Col Alexander Jefferson. Lighting the Educational Flame is sponsored today by Matthew Malden of Malden Aquatics. Swimming lessons, lifeguard Red Cross training courses, camp lifeguard training, pool parties, and more. Located in Rockland County, New York. Contact info@maldenaquatics.com.
Hi, this is Marc Hoberman. Welcome to our podcast, Lighting the Educational Flame. What an honor it is to have with us today Lt.Col Alexander Jefferson. Good afternoon. I just want to give our listeners a brief background about your incredible life. Excuse me for not being able to list all of your many accomplishments because we have a very short podcast and you have too many accomplishments to list here, but just some highlights. Lt.Col Alexander Jefferson has the distinct honor of being one of the Tuskegee Airmen. In 1995, Jefferson was enshrined in the Michigan Aviation Hall of Fame, and then in 2004, President George W. Bush awarded the Lieutenant Colonel with a Purple Heart for being wounded while being shot down over German-occupied France in 2007. He attended a ceremony where he and the other veterans of the Tuskegee Airmen and their widows were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal in recognition of their service. And finally, Mr. Jefferson graduated from Chadsey High School in 1938, and he was the only African-American to take college preparatory classes. He was called up to flight training almost 70 years ago, around 1943, at Tuskegee Army Airfield. So, Lieutenant Colonel, first of all, many of our listeners are teenagers who have studied the Tuskegee Airmen. What can you tell our young people about your experiences in World War II and your struggles, basically as an African-American, almost 7 decades ago?
It was a struggle, and literally, you have to join the ball game. You have to get in the game. See, we were excluded from society by segregation and discrimination. We were not in the game. We couldn't play and get the rewards. Well, things opened up during World War II when President Truman signed possibilities for blacks to have jobs. That's the main thing. And we survived World War II, and on the basis of our conduct, blacks in aviation and in the Air Force, blacks in the Army, and the Marines, and the Coast Guard. The military was desegregated in 1948. We learned how to play the game. Other than that, perseverance. You got to stick with your guns, perseverance. Go ahead, Marc.
Well, that's a great answer and such a great lesson for our young people and adults as well. I want people to know that on August 12th, 1944, while you were attacking a radar installation, you were shot down, and you had a parachute to safety, and you actually landed. Right, and you landed within the forest, if I'm correct, and you were immediately captured by Nazi ground troops, and then you were sent right in the middle. Wow, and you were sent to a prisoner of war camp, I believe, correct?
Prisoner of war in Poland, a German POW camp in Poland. More than 100,000 white American Air Force officers in Poland. Stalag Luft 3. I was approximately the fourth black, maybe the third or fourth black in the camp. It was so huge.
Wow. And how long were you there?
I was there 5 months until transferred to another POW camp near Munich. I was there 4 months at Stalag 7A near Munich, where we were liberated by General Patton's Third Army. And while waiting for transportation up to Le Havre to catch the boat coming back to the States, someone said, "There's a place down the road with a lot of dead people." What the heck are you talking about? Now remember now, no television, no Time magazine,
Sure.
no newspapers. We were 20 miles from Dachau. We got a Jeep and we went to see this place. It was unknown to us. Horrible, horrible. I saw Dachau with thousands of dead bodies.
Right. And there's so many people out there who say that the Holocaust didn't exist, but
That's right.
you of course, saw it firsthand.
Yes.
Well, I have to say that I read something in doing some research for this podcast. Quite honestly, it blew my mind. I'm under the impression that your parents actually received a killed in action letter. Yeah, they didn't find out that you were alive, though, until a letter from the Red Cross arrived
That's
over
correct.
a month later.
That's correct.
What do you recall about the next time that you actually physically saw your parents?
Well, I actually saw them I went down in August 44. I saw them in June 45 when I got home. And but they knew I was alive by then.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, a lot of people may not realize that there's so much more that you did even after the war, as if what you did wasn't enough. So first, let me thank you so much on behalf of people in our country for your service, but also your service after the war. Tell us about your career as an elementary school teacher after you retired.
We had to stay involved, and after the war, became an elementary science school teacher in Detroit, teaching science to 4th, 5th, to 6th graders, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th graders. It was exciting because it was a chance to educate and come in contact with young people, to open up their minds to the progress of struggle.
And how many years did you teach?
I taught 30 years, 30, 35. Oh, God.
Right.
Never calculated.
Sure. And tell me, you spoke upon an interesting word. It was going to be a follow-up question of mine. So you talked to them about the struggle, the history of the struggle, and it's not just a black struggle. It's a struggle and adversity, altogether. So
you keep in mind that black men fought in every encounter that this country came up against. We fought in the Civil War. We fought in War of 1812. We fought with Roosevelt coming up in Cuba, saved Teddy Roosevelt. We fought in World War I. The 769th out of New York fought in France, never lost an inch of ground. We fought in World War II, both Army, Navy, Marines, Vietnam, Korea. We've defended this country in every encounter.
Absolutely. And how have you in your life, how have you dealt with any struggles, adversity, whether it be because of your skin color, whether it be because of monetary situations, or just adversity?
You have to keep your eye on the objective. The objective was becoming one with America. There's an old saying, you have to join the ball game. You never join a baseball game and play football rules. The life we lead is a game. Go to school, get an education, make good marks, go to college, get a good job, earn money, marry, children, home, mortgage, automobile. It's a game. We were prevented from getting into the game because blacks were not allowed to go to school, number one. You were not allowed to compete. You were kept economically poor because you're uneducated. Once you get in the game, you can make progress and you can change the rules. Jackie Robinson was not the best baseball player, but he was able to defend himself in terms of not reacting to illegitimate bad calls. He got in the game and proceeded to change the game, became one of the best baseball players. Basketball, same thing. You got in the game, and once you get in the game, we change the game. When I watch basketball games now, it looks like it's a black game. We got in the game and changed it. Same thing with education. Same thing with your life. That's been my positive attitude all along.
I got you, and it's such a great lesson you're teaching, and I have to say that my father was in World War II. He would have been 94 this September. He was in the Army for several. Yes, he was in the Army for several years. I think he was stationed in New Guinea. And I have to tell you, I can't recall him telling even one story about his time in World War II, and I think it's so great and so important that this part of history be told.
He needs to tell it to these young people so they get an idea of what's up and how they're obligated to keep this country going.
I think that's the most important thing out of all the things you said, which were important. That's the most important thing, that they have to feel the obligation. And they also have to know that there will be adversity. And look how someone like you, who now at the age of 95 is still speaking about it and teaching life lessons.
Exactly.
And I want to ask you, I also, on a lighter note, I did hear some kind of rumor that my students call somebody who had a lot of girlfriends a player. So I'm under the impression that you were a player, as they say, back in the day. And what can you tell us about your lady friends so many years ago? Oh,
no. The usual. You had a girlfriend. You had aspirations for those whom you liked, but you were never able to meet, or never able to make any progress with them. But Margot was, I knew Margot was about 5'2", about 110, with green eyes. She's the one that I put her name on my airplane. But when I was shot down as a POW, during the 9 months, I wrote, never heard a word from Margot. When I got home, I found out that Margot had been taken care of by another friend of mine. I never met Margot again. But meanwhile, as I returned to Tuskegee Army Airfield, I was assigned as an instructor. And then I saw this beautiful young lady riding up and down the apron, packing parachutes, delivering parachutes to different places. And we met. Consequently, we had 35, 40 years of marriage. It was Adela. After that, that's about it. Mm-hmm.
I got you. And I want to circle back a little bit. When you were at Tuskegee, at the Air Force there, at the airfield, I should say, what kind of training did you receive? And I think at some point you also became a trainer yourself.
Well, the training was 9 months. You go in as a civilian. 9 months later, you come out as a second lieutenant, a pilot with wings. It was rigorous. 125 men started in my class in April 43. And 9 months later, November 44, only 25 survived. After hazing, books, learning how to fly, instruction, it was horrendous. After the war, I became an instructor of those same departments. Tough. You had to be tough because you had a lot to learn.
And how long did you actually train others to fly?
I trained others for about a year, and then they closed up Tuskegee Army Airfield a year later. I came back in 1945, and they closed 1946, June of 46. They closed Tuskegee Army Airfield, and we were sent to Rickenbacker up near Columbus, Ohio. I was there for a year before I was. After a year, we were eliminated from service, back to civilian life, 47.
Wow, and then that's when you, I guess, went into teaching at some point, and had such a long career that spanned over 3 decades.
That's right.
Yeah, an incredible story, and Lieutenant Colonel, in closing, I just can't thank you enough for your time today, and more importantly, your service to our country, and the impact you've had on young people throughout your teaching career. My pleasure, and it's been an honor speaking with you. And I'm going to ask you to make another commitment that in 5 years, when we're celebrating your 100th birthday, you'll come back and do a show with us again.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Marc.
I do as well. My pleasure. And again, this is Marc Hoberman, producer of Lighting the Educational Flame, reminding you that most of our interviews will be guest hosted by high school teenagers. If you have any questions or you're interested in hosting one of our podcasts, email me at info@gradesuccess.com. Thanks so much for listening to today's interview on Lighting the Educational Flame. And Lieutenant Colonel, much respect, and thank you so much for all you've done.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Lighting the Educational Flame with Marc Hoberman. To contact Marc, email him at info@gradesuccess.com.